In the next several seconds, I'm going to be discussing the new episode of Sword Art Online Season 3, Episode 10, which includes violence and sexual assault. If that's something you want to pass on, or you want to avoid spoilers for this episode, that is perfectly fine. I wanted to put a warning in the video because I know some people may not be expecting what this episode brings to the table, and I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Moving forward, let's talk about this episode and my thoughts on what is presented. If you guys want a quick review, I thought this episode was really good. But before I ended up watching the episode, I already knew what was going to happen because I already read the light novel, Alicization Turning. One thing I remember while reading this is Reki really doing this again? Why? But while I was reading, I realized that this is the first time Reki Kawahara has used sexual assault to improve the plot and its characters. While writing this, Reki actually tweeted about the episode and why he uses sexual assault in his work, and even apologizes to the two voice actors who played the pages. He states that the novels he read when he was younger never covered subjects like this, and that's why he writes about it. Of course, I'll leave a link in the description. I think one big reason why fans, including myself, were upset with the two scenes with Asuna in Season 1 were, for one, the scene where Asuna is basically molested by tentacle monsters was totally unnecessary, and felt like complete fan service to its max. There was no real reason for having them be monsters, and it just left a terrible taste in my mouth. While watching Asuna almost get raped by Sogo, I felt completely taken out of the scene because of how horrible this scene truly is. The directing and camera work gone into making this scene does not fulfill any purpose whatsoever. Just like the tentacle monsters, this scene feels like it's pandering just to fans, and does not make me feel more horrified in the way this show wants me to feel. Seeing Asuna's body presented like that while showing her get assaulted does not do anything but hurt the story. What this scene does is only reinforce how disgusting Sogo is, and how much we want to see Kirito get up and kill him. Take this scene out and replace it with Mother's Basement's version, and then you have a scene which not only gets rid of this terrible feeling, but also improves your story in a meaningful way. If you haven't watched this video on the subject, I'll also leave a link in the description. Which brings us to this scene right here. What we get here is a huge step in the right direction regarding how to handle this type of scene. In episodes prior, we are introduced to the two nobles Humbert and Rios, who regard Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh as nothing more than country bumpkins, viewing themselves and other nobles to be more superior than the people without the title, going as far to upset Kirito by finding a loophole that would allow them to destroy his flowers. These slimy nobles are more privileged than others. Because of their title, they are given rights that commoners do not have called judicial authority, allowing them to inflict whatever punishment they see fit on lesser subjects and social ranks. Both Humbert and Rios decide to lure Thais and Roni into a trap which allows them to fulfill their sadistic desires. Unlike both Asuna scenes, what this scene manages to do first is not rely on providing fan service to the audience, which in a scene like this, you really probably shouldn't go for that. Looking at both scenes with Asuna, the way the camera shows Asuna's body is clearly trying to go for fan service, which I already stated is a bad move. Contrast to that, while watching Humbert and Rios assault the pages, I felt horrified and sick to watch these two girls get brutally violated in front of Yu-Gi-Oh! And speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh!, while this is all going on, we watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Come to terms with why the Taboo Index and Imperial Law are ultimately BS, and seeing the horror in his eyes only intensifies what's really going on. I watched this on Crunchyroll, and while watching, there were some parts that were either censored or cut out. To replace certain parts, we were given shots where you might only see half the characters' bodies or their heads. This actually works to further horrify the audience because seeing their face in pure shock and terror lets the viewer's imagination roam about what's actually going on rather than just showing us. Shots like the ones on screen provide us with the same fear that the characters are feeling right now. Unlike with seeing Sogo do everything, we are left with this sick feeling of dread and absolute anger. and if used effectively, which in my opinion it was, does not leave the viewer terrified of how they show Thais and Roni. I think the Crunchyroll version of this scene was very well done, and not going into the realm of fan service. But not only was this scene good at making my adrenaline go through the roof, it actually contributes a hell of a lot more to the story than any other scene in the episode. One of the problems with both Asuna scenes is that they have no real purpose to the actual story, just to horrify and shock the audience, by making them try to think how evil what's going on really is. Because of the rights the nobles are given, they are able to perform acts that just barely meet the requirement of laws of the taboo. Seeing them go to such lengths to find loopholes in the taboo with their own evil motives in mind to have a reason to violate both girls is truly a testimony to how little high-ranking nobles care about the higher laws. We even see Yujiro reflect on how there are things you should do even if they are restricted by law, and certain things you shouldn't do even if the law doesn't recognize it as wrong. This instills rage in Yujiro by showing how wrong the taboo index is by letting them get away with whatever they want, just as long as it doesn't violate the taboo. In Yujiro's mind, the taboo index is supposed to be just, and never corrupt, and by him witnessing Rios and Humbert have the right to do this, this causes the Axiom Church to lose control over Yujiro. Yujiro's right eye explodes, freeing him from the seal which forced him to comply to the church and its laws, which then allows him to attack Humbert and Rios to save the girls. Just like Alice, Yujiro puts someone else's life above the taboo index, which makes Yujiro the second highly autonomous and adaptive artificial intelligence. And when I saw the sword hit its target, the amount of satisfaction that came with it was massive. Seeing Humbert flail in pain due to the loss of his arm was both intense and well deserved. The amount of blood that was in this episode was crazy. Thankfully, Kirito comes in to save Yujiro and disarms Rios. Oh, putting an end to one of the most intense scenes in the season so far. So, obviously, I'm not going to go over the light novel spoilers because I don't want you guys to find out what's coming next. That's why I'm not going to cover Rios freaking out and glitching on the floor. Although I will be making an in-depth review of episodes 1 through 10 in the next week, so be ready for that if you're interested. But I really want to know if you guys like this scene or not. Like, did you find it satisfying at all to see those nobles get what they deserved? Or do you think this scene was bad? One thing I thought about was if they were to remove this scene and replace it with something equally as bad, what would it be? I myself thought of this and couldn't come up with an answer. Like I said, I think this is the first time Reki has used sexual assault in a way that helps tell his story in a way that isn't offensive or poorly done. Anyway, please share your thoughts in the comments. I looked around on Reddit and YouTube videos, and the majority of people actually seem to like this episode. And I don't know if that's going to change or not. I probably will, I don't know. But I think for right now, I'm firm into my decision that I really think this episode was awesome. So I hope you guys liked the video. Please stick around for my review coming out very soon. Peace.